West End Church is a church that loves art. We love our music, and many of you have told me this again and again these weeks. They love our music too. We also love the beauty of our sanctuary, the artfulness of our architecture and our stained glass, and the sense of history we feel when we are there. I know we all miss it, the art in and of our sanctuary. And with prayer and with patience and with a bit of luck, we'll all get back there someday again. We love talking about theater, what we have seen and what concert we might have just heard. We loved doing this in person. Maybe we're experiencing some of these arts online now. We're a people who go to museums when we could, who surround ourselves with art on our walls and in our homes, objects on coffee tables, coffee table books. It's one of the gifts of Zoom that we have now, that we have this insight into each other's art collections and each other's homes. And just for the record, while we're here, the print behind me is nice enough, but I can take no credit for it. Patrick and I are lucky to be house sitting for some friends while they're away. So I can take nor credit, nor will I offer any defense for either the art or the blue of the door behind me. Whether you like it or not, it's a matter of art and taste. But we like talking about art. We love supporting it. We love our artists. We love the artists in our midst, the playwrights, especially the new ones after this week of new plays. The actors, we love them. We love the musicians, the directors, the painters, architects, chefs, and bakers, the gardeners and designers, the artists that each of you are in your own way. We love the arts. And this week's first ever West End Arts Festival highlighted just how art can lift our spirits, how art can create community, and how it inspires our faith. Art is pretty magical stuff. It's holy and sacred, sometimes a bit of a mystery. When we say we love the arts, we are usually referring to something tangible or experiential, a product, an objet, a piece of theater or of music, a painting, a sculpture, a loaf of artisanal bread lovingly procured at the farmer's market behind the Museum of Natural History. Edible art in the shadow of historic art. Art is, however, not just an object, but art is also a way. Art is the way of care. It's the way of intention, of taking something ordinary, speech or an instrument or a piece of clay or a stack of timber, and infusing it with meaning and purpose, of seeing it with vision. The artfulness of art is the craft, the intention, the thought. It's the heart, the passion. Writers and art teachers and curators and anyone who's ever spent a rainy afternoon with a 4-year-old indoors knows this. Art is specific, and it has meaning, and art has originality. Sure, any of us can splatter some paint on the walls or on a canvas, but that doesn't make us Jackson Pollock. Each of us, many of us, some of us might have mastered the art of French cooking for ourselves, but none of us are Julia Child. Artists, the great ones and the ordinary ones, they inspire us not just with the product of their art, but with the authority by which they claim it as theirs. Many years ago, when I was an undergraduate, I spent 2 summers at the O'Neill Playwrights Conference in New London, Connecticut. If you've never been to the O'Neill, and if you ever happen to be in that part of the world, it's worth the detour. Stop by. And if you are going in that direction and want to experience some other art, I'll tell you about Captain Scott's Lobster Dock, which is where I recommend lunch. Now, those 2 summers of summer internships, they did a lot to shape my own sense of art and how I would engage with art and with artists and my own career. It is from that second summer that I was offered my first professional job as a producer at the National Theatre in London. And of all the great many memories that I have of those 2 summers and of the years and of the friendships and of the career they birthed, one ritual has stayed with me very closely. On the first day of that conference every year, when the 12 or 13 or the 14 playwrights that were selected by a jury of peers, when those new playwrights, those season of playwrights would arrive, each of them would receive a ball cap with the O'Neill's logo on it. The playwrights, those who were at the center of the conference, each of them would also receive a windbreaker embroidered with their first name, and then just under that name, in italics, the simple word playwright. Some of these artists were seasoned and previously produced and had long-standing associations of themselves as a playwright. They knew who they were. Others, and one in particular in my mind this morning, were more green. They were younger, they were new to this, might have been their first play, and they hadn't yet taken on the moniker of playwright. They weren't yet brave enough to call themselves a playwright. Jim Houghton, the late founding artistic director of the Signature Theater in our own city, Jim was the artistic director of the Playwrights Festival while I was there, and on that first night when the playwrights arrived each year, he would give a toast. He would name the playwrights' names, and he would call them playwrights. And then he would go on to tell how this naming ascribed authority and how important it was. Because not everyone's comfortable calling themselves an artist, he would say. But the authority of naming yourself and of claiming your art, that was at the heart of Jim's vision for each of these artists, of each of these playwrights. Throughout the summer, these playwrights would find their own authority, and each of them would live more fully into their art. It was a magical, holy, sacred, sometimes mysterious thing to witness. Maybe some of you have never considered yourself to be much of an artist. Maybe you, like that one playwright I have in my mind, and like many others, maybe you've never called yourself an artist because maybe something else is going on. Maybe you haven't because at West End, we're lucky enough to be surrounded by so many great actual artists, amazing musicians, beautiful truth-telling actors, clear-eyed directors, visual artists and world-renowned curators, art historians, and many other disciplines too. Maybe you play a bit of bass guitar in your spare time, but well, you're no Bill Ellison, so you hesitate to call yourself a bassist. Maybe you're an actor, but you're not yet a Kim or a Deb or a Krista, and maybe you worry that your career is not going to take off, so you hesitate. As much as we love art and love the art created by others, and we love the artists who make it, maybe we hesitate to claim our own artistry because, well, why? Why do you hesitate? Why do we hesitate? Maybe one of the reasons is maybe that we're not quite sure that we have any authority to claim our own artistry. Authority is so often something that we let others ascribe to us rather than claim for ourselves. Jesus was once a young artist himself. We know he was trained as a carpenter, whether of fine furniture or of decorative arts, or more like an architect, we're not quite sure, but we do know that he could shape things, build things. He could create things out of wood. And one day, when he was a little bit older than that first day that he started learning his craft, one day he said to his dad, who was also an artist, also a carpenter, he said to his dad that he didn't think this was his true calling. And he wanted to explore something more. He felt something more in his artistic soul that he needed to express. And for that, he needed to leave the craft of carpentry and set out on his own. Now, this was long before Rilke's essential text of Letters to a Young Poet. So with only himself, his own sense of his own call, and with an inkling that he knew his truth, Jesus set out to find himself and to change the world, just like every young artist ever since has done at one point or another as well. And Jesus quickly called some friends together. We heard that story last week, those friends that were fishermen first, but artists they would become. And hanging out by the seashore, they talked and they wondered and they made a plan. That's what seashores are for. And they dreamed a scheme. Again, what young artist hasn't? And off they went. Jesus began to teach. His artistry began to emerge. You're wise enough to know that teaching is an art, that teachers are artists. And Jesus had a knack for it. All who had gathered in the synagogue where Jesus began to teach, they saw it in him, maybe even before he saw it himself. They saw it and they named it. They named it as true. They called it authoritative. Jesus taught with authority, which is to say, he taught with an art and with a truth, just like Michelangelo painted with authority, just as Maya Angelou wrote with authority, or John Coltrane played with authority. Teaching with authority means teaching from a place of both artistry and of love. Love is at the center of art, right? We love art. We love artists. We love creating art. Love is what gives us our authority. It's what gives our art authority. It is love that every artist has that makes her want to change the world. It is love that Jesus had that made him change all time. The greatest preacher ever, Jesus knew the art of homiletics. A teacher with authority, Jesus knew the art of pedagogy. A friend and a host to many, he knew the heart of hospitality. Jesus was an artist and a great one at that. What made him great is, of course, his God-given gift, his talent, his call, the specificity and the uniqueness, who he was created to be, the creation of God, the creation that is God. Each of you are a creation of God. Each of you have a call and a specificity and a uniqueness. Jesus' love is unparalleled, and his authority is recognized by everyone, good and bad, bad spirits, good spirits, right or wrong, they recognized his authority, right or left. They recognized his authority. Everyone of his day, and through the many days from then to now, recognizes the authority and this love. Love, of course, has its own authority. And it is from the place of love that change can happen. Little daily changes, as well as the tougher, more challenging changes of life. And ever the artist, ever the teacher, Jesus gives both form and precedent for change. It's love. For Jesus so loved that faithful congregation. He entered that place, their place, and he changed how they learned. He taught in a new way. He led with authority and with art and with love. Artists ever since, whether knowingly or not, whether claiming this or not, of whatever faith or tradition, artists live in this Jesus legacy. This legacy and this tradition of loving authority and of living into call. That means change and hope that the world may change too. There is indeed an authority that love has, and a love in authority that so often we can see in our art. Art reflects this truth for us. Art, a painting, is the world that we hope to see. Art, the song our souls know to sing. Art, the drama of our lives. Art, the buildings that we live in, art the stained glass that makes us transcend, art the steeple that points to the heavens and anchors us here on earth. Art as authority. Love in art. Love is authority. For there is indeed an authority in love and a love in authority that we see in art. Artists, dreamers, prophets, teachers. What an authority they have, that we know they have, that we see and we name. Artists, dreamers, prophets, teachers. That's who each of you are. And each of you can be when you speak with love, love for yourself and love for your craft, whatever it is, and love to change the world. It's pretty magical stuff, holy and sacred, sometimes a bit of a mystery. What a gift art is to us. What a gift these artists are. What a gift each of you are. Amen.